You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jeanne Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jeanne Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact. Hello and welcome to Marcus Howard, who is a hedge fund manager and trading psychology expert. And he's also the founder of Tradecology, which is a bold new academy that turns high school students into investors. Welcome, Marcus.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So am I. I love everything about investing. I love what you're doing. So let's dig into the psychology expert part and the part that plays in investing.
Sure. I mean, we can definitely dig into that. So in my work as a trading psychology coach, so there's two components of it. One, there's a component where we deal with middle school and high school students. So we teach K through 12 students personal finance and how to invest. But on the adult side, which I've been running since about 2020, 2021, we spend a lot of time on strategy optimization and the psychology of investing. So one of the most important things that we try to share there is that most traders feel like most traders actually don't know what's wrong with them, which is why they come to somebody like me. But in reality, we find that typically traders don't have 100 things wrong with them. They typically have 2 or 3. And so we have a series of tools, assessments, and protocols that we utilize to be able to identify what those things are. And then we have a proven process to help you to be able to change them. So a lot of times we think it's at the strategy level, like you need to change your strategy, you need to change your specific tactics. But we found that a lot of times we have to change behavior. And we have to change kind of unconscious beliefs about how you feel about money and how you feel about yourself. And once you do that, then some of these other kind of issues fall by the wayside. So we have a lot of fun tinkering with people's just kind of inner beliefs to be able to empower them better.
Okay, so great. We all know, we've all heard that, investing really is mostly psychology and mindset. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is new about that? You were talking about what are your methods and what makes you different and what's new about this?
Sure. So one of the kind of main cornerstones of what makes us different is one, the research that we base our behavior change protocols also off of, and then also the protocols that we use specifically. So I'll go into the research a little bit, then that will help to inform the protocols. So one of the kind of foundational pieces of research that we look at is a research study that was done by the Max Planck Institute. Now, Max Planck being a Nobel Prize winning physicist, they have the institute that's based in Germany. And they did a study where they had proven with statistical significance that we actually live about 10 seconds in the past. So I know that's a kind of startling thing to talk about, but there's a lot of truth to it. And then there's a lot of truth that can be derived from it once you truly understand it. So the study was that they would have research participants go into a room where they were looking at a television screen. And on that screen, there would either be an image that was happy or an image that was scary. And it was on a random number generator. So not even the researcher knew what image was going to be shown. But once they connected them to the EEG machines and the things that kind of took their heart rate, they were realizing that we as humans start to respond to things almost 10 seconds before it even shows up. And they didn't get it right every time, but they got it right where it's statistically significant enough where something was happening there, where we do have some sort of ability to be able to presuppose or have a premonition of ultimately what's happening next. So then the natural question is, well, then how does that translate into trading? So a lot of times what traders find is that, especially if we're talking like day traders, if we're doing kind of longer positional trading, it's not so much the same thing, but a lot of times we deal with day traders where they're going off of, they have a strategy or they have a thing that they've done, the strategy they thought of at the beginning of the day. But usually by the end of their first trade, that strategy has been abandoned and now they're going off of feel in a lot of instances. And what we're describing now is that your feel has actually been predetermined with things that you may not even be consciously aware of. So a lot of times we find that you are justifying your decisions from a predetermined feeling that you have versus actually looking at the data that is proving to you that that may not be the correct thing for you to be able to do. So for us, the challenge is working with traders to help them to be able to correct that, because there is a part of you that truly does know. But if you don't know how to tap into that, or if you ignore that, you ignore that to your peril.
Okay, that's so interesting because what you're talking about is hunches. And, often people say my intuition, but it's off. We
Mhm.
make bad decisions and we say, well, my intuition was saying that. So what you're proving here is we have to question that feeling, which is intuition, that could be wrong, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. In
Right.
most instances in trading, your intuition it can lead you astray, because it's not even to say that you're wrong as a trader. And I think you would know this as well. A lot of times it's not that you're wrong, it's that you're early.
Mm.
And so your stop loss is so close, especially if we're talking about day traders, guys who are trading $1 million or less. You don't put enough space in there for the trade to actually play itself out. So you could be 5 minutes early on the move, but that's enough time for you to ultimately be stopped out of your trade. And so what this does now is this reinforces a loop or a cycle to go that I can't trust my intuition, when in all actuality, what you possibly could be just do is trust your intuition, but like wait. So one of the tactical things that we ask traders to do, especially if they're struggling with this specific part of it, is if you're looking to enter into a trade, why don't you place your entry where you would normally be placing your stop loss? Therefore, if you're early, the market moves to where you thought your stop loss should be. Then once you enter there, not only do you make the money that you would have lost because you put your stop loss down here, but then it actually goes in the direction of genuinely where you want to go. So that's one strategy that we use. Another strategy that we talk to with traders, and this one's a little bit more difficult for folks to master because it does mess with your intuition a little bit, or so many people, especially traders, you find that they have been successful in so many other areas of their life. And a lot of times it comes from this muscle memory and this genuine intuition that they have, which doesn't quite work so well in the markets. But I can tell you that we know of multiple $1 million traders that I say, whatever your intuition is, just take the opposite side of the trade. So if you think you're supposed to buy a contract, just sell a contract and see what happens. And they find that they end up making way more money.
Because it's the opposite. So it's a pendulum. It's not this, it's that. Okay. So what are the results of using your methods? Are all of your students making money because you just figured out the holy grail of investing?
Absolutely not. I mean, it always comes to some varying degree. So one of the kind of more popular courses that we have in my program is our $1 million funded account accelerator. So essentially what we try to do, or what we work with traders to do, is to help them to get $1 million in funding from other institutions or proprietary trading firms. So you're not necessarily risking your life savings in order to be able to trade and invest. So in that particular course, of course, we do have higher success rates because we have a proven, essentially a goal line, a goalpost of where we're ultimately trying to get you to. And so with that, we can all kind of collectively move together because we have this collective goal, this collective unconscious to be able to do so. But just because we have the tools doesn't mean that people have the discipline, have the wherewithal, have the willpower in order for these things to ultimately work. And a lot of times what you find, and I think you can attest to this as well, is that again, because they have been so successful in other areas of their life, a lot of times you find that they're headstrong. So they believe that they know the answer, even though you're giving them a different alternative. And I can make no claims first off, as an investor, like every single disclaimer I have to give, past results don't guarantee, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So all of those things.
Or you'll be snood up the wazoo.
Absolutely. But then even for you understanding this as a coach, it's like the only thing that we can do is to help people to hold the space, give them the tools so that they can make the changes themselves. We aren't changing them. We are providing the opportunity and the tools for them to be able to change themselves. If they aren't willing to do the work in order to be able to do that, then there's nothing we can do about it. So of course, I don't have 100% success rate, but I can say that we have helped so many hundreds of traders. We've had thousands of traders in our program that are all experiencing results, have become full-time traders, have come to that, at least with that funded account program. The goal that most of those guys have and gals are, can I be a six-figure trader? And we have so many of those for sure.
Okay, so it's interesting. So the $1 million, is that a collective $1 million that everybody's working on together, or each student actually has somebody that is entrusting $1 million of funding to them?
Sure. Yeah. So this is more in the futures market that we're talking about, where there are these companies that are called proprietary trading firms, where essentially you just take an exam or a trading. So essentially it's like this. If you can make or go up 5% without losing 3% that you make, then we'll give you money to trade with. So it could be 50,000, it could be 100,000, it can be more than that. So our innovation though is that we show you how you're able to get multiple of these accounts through multiple companies. So you'll have 250,000 here, 400,000 here, another 300,000 somewhere else. But at the end of it, you've been entrusted with $1 million, not of actual factual money, but of purchasing power in trading for you to be able to essentially leverage more to be able to make more.
Okay, so in that case, the students are getting a percentage if they win. Okay, and this is letting them practice with an actual portfolio.
Yes, I mean, they can say that they are practicing, but even at the same time, for them, if they are able to successfully get a return, then there's actual factual money to be made. So they're really trying to earn an income. And with those proprietary trading companies, in a lot of instances, it's the 80-20 or 90-10 split. So the trader keeps 80% of it, and the proprietary trading firm keeps the other.
Okay. So, and you help your students get that set up. You set it up for them.
No, so it doesn't require me as the coach to help them to set it up. There are plenty of companies in the space that do it.
But you show them how to find those companies and apply.
No, I mean, most times traders will come to me who are already familiar with these companies, have already been taking these exams, and they have been failing them multiple times, and aren't quite sure what they need to do in order to be able to be successful at it consistently. So again, doing a quick Google search of like proprietary trading firms. Again, I'm trying to be reluctant to not say them because there are so many.
You can't. Yeah, you can't.
But it's pretty simple to find them.
I'm confused about the high school students. Then nobody's going to give a high school student money, are they?
No. So with the high school program, it's a little different. So we were talking about our adult program. With the high school program, we actually have a partnership with Interactive Brokers and their student labs, and so they give them $1 million in simulated money.
Yes.
So we can teach them it in a simulated environment. They're not going through the proprietary trading firm realm. But what I can say is, if you do become successful at it, that it's pretty simple for your parents to help to set up something called a custodial account so that you can actually go and trade on your own. So with our pilot program that we had in January, the winner of our trading competition, our inaugural trading competition, actually had his family help him to set up a custodial account. And he's trading on his own and has already made multiples amounts of the prize money that he's gotten just utilizing the tools in our program. So
fantastic. Okay. So the goal, you for the adult traders working with you, you've helped them pass those exams, you're saying, because they couldn't pass them before?
Yes, that's one component of what we do. Yeah.
And it was the mental game was off, is what you're saying?
Majority of the time, yes, it is a mental thing. Depending on, but there are also some areas in and around strategy. You also find that traders don't really have a strategy. They really just have a hope and a dream, or more importantly, they're doing an amalgamation of so many different strategies that they've had that they haven't really been able to adequately and accurately test. So a big component of what we do in the very beginning is to show them how they can create a testable strategy that you can utilize, like that you can look in the past and see if it worked before you ever try to deploy it in the real market. So again, retail traders, it runs the gamut. Of course, on the professional side, you usually have a team of people that are helping you through these things. But as a solo trader, as a proprietary trader, as you are the practitioner and the operator, typically you're playing 4 or 5 different roles that would traditionally be in a firm completely on your own. And so a lot of it is just even helping you get the perspective to understand that you probably shouldn't be doing all of these jobs, that there are ways that you can automate some of these things. There are ways that you can outsource some of these things, but like you don't have to operate in a vacuum by yourself in order to be successful as a trader.
Right. Okay. So have you had any students with the high school students how long does it take for them to learn this? How many months?
For a high school student to learn what the basics,
how to trade,
mechanics of trading.
Yeah.
I mean, you can learn how to trade in 24 hours or less. The complicated part is not the mechanics. Yeah.
No, I mean everything everything. How do you know what I mean? Not just push buttons. Anybody could do that. But how long does it take for them to be a fairly good trader? To be able to go use their own money, like you said, one of the young people did that.
Yeah. So I can only go off of just the data that we have in our own company. I can't really say how long it takes anybody to be successful at anything. I think it's really dependent on you and how well you work and how much effort you put into it. Yeah. But our first program was about 6 months or so long, and we found that many students were able to pick it up and get pretty good at it pretty quickly. Again, but it's every day is different in the market, so it's
of course
you definitely don't get better until you go through all of the scenarios in which you have to develop the resilience in order to be consistent at it over a 100%. So,
That goes for everything. That goes for me coaching my clients as well.
Yeah. So for us, it's not, especially with our high school program, it's not so much we're trying to make you a master at trading in 6 months. I don't believe that's possible. But what we
Right.
are doing is giving you the foundations and the fundamentals so that you can start with a solid foundation that's built with bricks as opposed to something that's built on quicksand.
Okay, so you have also a hedge fund. What brought you all this? How did you get into your hedge fund? And tell us a little bit about you and how you got here.
Sure. So my road to becoming a hedge fund manager, if I'm being completely honest with you, was accidental. So I owned a business in college where I was working with college students, and essentially we were helping them. I had a company where we were helping them to establish credit. And so when I was 18 or 19, unfortunately, I had my identity stolen. And in that process of understanding how to fix my own credit, I realized that there was a way to help people to begin to build their credit from scratch. And so I had a brilliant idea one day in the shower that with all this knowledge that I collected, that I should probably write a book. And I think that would help me to kind of pay down some of this debt. And I was able to find a mentor at my university who was an English professor who helped me to put the book together. And so I had a book, and then I had a friend who was a computer science major that put together like this little rudimentary software as a service. It wasn't called that back then, but like that's essentially what it was. Where then I was going out to different credit unions and asking them if they would allow students to have a unsecured loan in order to be able to build their credit. So you would think that most of them would say no, but essentially the way we positioned it or set it up is they would have a bank account, they wouldn't have access to it, we would pay the interest up front, and then they would just deduct it every single month to help them to establish their credit.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it wasn't something that I pioneered, to be honest with you. It's something that the mortgage industry has been doing forever to help people to qualify for home loans. But my innovation was that I utilized it with college students. And then I had this little software as a service group that I put together to help to make sure that the students couldn't ruin it. And then we had an education piece to it where we were actually teaching them the fundamentals of personal finance and how to do that. So I ran that business for maybe about 10 or 15 years. And then I merged it with another company, basically took a buyout. And then at that point, I had a little bit of money on my hands, but a lot more time. And so that's when I really started to take a look seriously at, okay, well, what is investing? What is this investing thing? And so I started the same way that we start with our students with at that time, it was a $50,000 simulated account. And in a year, I took that from about $50,000 to maybe $1.4, $1.5 million in simulated money. And then I was like, okay, well, after that year, then I put my own money in it. And I put maybe about 10,000 or so. I grew that to six figures. And then from there, I was like, okay, well, this is something that I think that I can do. And so my big kind of break with that was that I had a friend of mine who I told what I was up to, and he was a part of a real estate group, and they were in between deals. And so they were like, hey, we're sitting on this pile of cash. Do you mind? Could we give it to you to help us to invest? And if we get a positive return, we'll give you a cut, and then we'll just use it for our real estate deals that we need a year from now. So, my mantra in life is, even if you don't feel like you're qualified for it, say yes and then figure it out later.
That's Richard Branson's thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so I said yes and was able to figure it out. And it went from giving that real estate group a positive return to about 80% of those people coming and investing with me personally. So I went from just investing for myself to investing for about 40 other people. So that's when I had to go through the process of getting licensed, getting insurance, doing all the compliance things. Kind of that's where my hedge fund started in 2019. And I've just been doing it ever since.
Wow. And so what are the funds under? How much are you managing with the hedge fund?
Sure. So we have, several $1 million under management. I don't always know exactly what are the legalities around how to talk about these specific things, but I know that, publicly there's a lot that we can't talk about in our industry. So typically in these kind of public settings, I just kind of shy away from individual executions and all.
There's a few $1 million. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then from there, what made you think, gee, I want to help high school students?
One of the clients that was a part of that original real estate group, he homeschooled his kids, and he had been talking to me about it for years, saying, hey, man, whatever you're doing, we know it works because we're seeing our returns. We also see the work that you're doing with adults. We feel like the next generation would benefit from this knowledge. And so I resisted the temptation or the idea to do that for years, because I was already running two companies. I was already really busy. I didn't necessarily have a desire to work with quote unquote beginners. But he did, being persistent enough, he did catch me at the time. I was like, well, okay, well, let's explore and see what this could actually be. And so then we went about how working to figure it out. So that's when we ended up getting a partnership with Interactive Brokers so that I made sure that they were using the same tools that I was using inside of my hedge fund. So they're not utilizing some toy that they would never be able to use in real life. So we're training them on the exact tools that they can go out and create a custodian account or when they become 18 be able to utilize. We partner with companies like Power School and Desire to Learn, which are some of the leading K through 12 online education providers, which has all the security components to it, all of the modern learning aspects of being able to do it. So we really want to turn it into a true education institution as opposed to going to like a school or some of the other just kind of regular online platforms.
Okay, so what are the benefits of people learning these mind tools anyway? What are the benefits, even if they're not going to be traders?
I mean, it's always going to be important for you to understand what you need to do to be able to make a change in your subconscious beliefs or even your habits and patterns. Because most people know that they need to change something. I'm not saying that you're a flawed person or that you don't necessarily, like you have 100 things wrong with you. But we know that there are things in life that we're like, why do I keep doing these same things over and over again, which we know aren't healthy? And I'm not even sure where these ideas or these habits originally came from. So imagine if you had the ability to be able to know that you need to change those habits and you have a set of tools and protocols that take like 15, 20 minutes a day and you actually do change them. Like how different would your life be if instead of just constantly complaining about these broken habits that you have, that you could fix them?
So how has this helped you in your life? These tools?
I mean, starting a hedge fund, the story that I tell is like when I started this thing, just so many successful areas of my life I can contribute directly to these protocols. Now, I recently got these back when I was a consultant for the National Association of Investment Companies. And this is a company that worked with some of the emerging kind of venture capital firms. So these guys that were trading about 5 billion or less. So their market cap was about 1 to 5 billion. And they had a consultant come in and his whole thing was like, look, I work with C-level executives. And in most cases, I only have an hour a month because they're so busy. But I have to be able to facilitate change, not only within them, but within their company to change their bottom line. And so he had developed a set of protocols that, I mean, when we were going through them at the time, we were like, this seems kind of strange. I'm just, listening to an audio and tapping on my desk and what is this really going to do? But Jesus Christ, did it really change a lot of the habits that we thought, or at the time I thought were unchangeable. And so once I had that, I was hooked. And so I was smart enough to know that I should probably maintain a relationship with this person and then look at like what other sort of tools and protocols that are out there that can facilitate these sorts of changes. And so there are many of the tools that we utilize both in my own personal life as well as in my company. So my team uses these same protocols. We teach through these protocols with both the students and the adults because it genuinely does work. And the interesting part of it is like, and it's so strange to say it now, but like a lot of these protocols that I'm talking about, they aren't just easily accessible on the internet. I know we think that everything is on the internet these days, but like, for example, one of the tools that we use, one of the protocols that we use for goal achievement was taught by a guy who was an MIT guy. It had been verified by MIT to be 95% effective at achieving any goal, no matter how crazy the goal was. But like he retired 7 or 8 years ago, as rich as he wants to be. He's like 70 something years old. He's like, I don't want to do this anymore. But I just happened to go through that course 9 or 10 years ago, learn the practitioner part of it. So I still have that information readily available to me. But if you went,
okay, that's fascinating. Tell us a bit about that. Was it like a neuroscience tool?
Yeah, so his particular tool that I'm talking about is called Cybernetic transposition. It's an individual by the name of Stuart Lichtman. So he had been doing that, for a long while. And again, at this point, he's retired in California with his wife. Like he has no interest in teaching it anymore because he's rich and he's successful and he's retired. So yeah.
Just say it. It's called Cybernetic
transposition. I know it's a mouthful. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I've never heard of this. And it must be somewhat related to some other tools that we know about. Is it like EFT or?
Yeah, it's a combination of a number of different protocols. But if I can break down his kind of 3-step process in terms of what he has done, the first thing would be that you would have to put together, let's just for lack of a better term, say you put together a SMART goal. So something that is specific and measurable, but he has his own kind of secret sauce in terms of how he puts it together to make sure that it incorporates all the things that you need in order for the goal to be successful. But then what I really say makes his protocol different from some of the other ones that we've looked at or some of the other ones that we know of, like if you wanted to look at I mean, there are so many kind of goal achievement protocols,
Yes.
but for his, the second one was that you want to understand how you can prioritize this in your unconscious mind
Yes.
versus something that you consciously are worrying about all the time. So the metaphor that I love to give so that you can understand kind of what I'm talking about is, have you ever had that situation where you're driving home from work and you have something on your mind? And so you're thinking about that. And then all of a sudden you realize you drove yourself home and you didn't know how you got there.
Yes, we all do that.
That mechanism of whatever is keeping you safe and driving you home where your mind is focused on somewhere else, that is the part of you that he assigns to helping you to do goal achievement.
Unconsciously.
Yes. So it's not something you have to consciously think about. But most times, if we talk about goal achievement or people want to talk about how to successfully do something, what do they typically tell you? Affirmations, mantra, willpower, repeat
Discipline,
over and over and over
list,
again.
do it.
These
do the
are
work.
all conscious aspects of the mind. It does not engage the unconscious mind at all. And so most people don't talk about the unconscious protocols that you can do in order to have that part of you really go towards goal achievement. So that's part two. And then the third area that he focuses on is blocker clearing. So you find that whenever you're truly going towards your most sought after goals, in most instances, you typically come up against the things that are always resisting you from getting there, whether it's a fear, a limiting belief. For a lot of times, if you have money goals, it's something called an unconscious performance limit. So there have been plenty of peer-reviewed studies that have shown that you have a number in your head in terms of how much money you think you deserve, whether you know it or not. And then if you go $1 or more above that, you begin to sabotage your success in order to get you back to a number that you're comfortable with. And so he has a protocol to help you to be able to raise that limit to be 20% above genuinely what it is that you want to achieve. Again, if you want to make $1 million, but you've been only making $75,000 a year, guess what? You're going to run into trouble when you get really uncomfortable trying to get to that $1 million. We can look at all the lottery winners that we know of that within 10 years, they're back to the level of income that they were, even if they had $100 million. Because again, there's this unconscious performance limit that people aren't aware of. And so he has a series of tools and protocols in place to help you to be able to clear those blockers or clear that inner resistance so that you can march toward that goal in a more positive and healthy way. So I've been utilizing that specific protocol for over a decade for all sorts of goal achievement things, not just things money related, but just general life related.
Well, that's fascinating. And there's nowhere we can get this except if people work with you. Or did he write a book about this?
Yeah, I'm sure there are other practitioners that are out there that still teach it. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure a PDF of his book is floating around somewhere on the internet. You know what I mean? But thinking through the actual, the courses that I had gone through, being with the guy, the multimedia video things. I do not believe that those are so anymore. No.
Wow, that's fascinating. So you actually did an actual program. Of course, reading a book is not the same as coaching with somebody or going through a process. Wow, that's fascinating. So that just took this to another level, that you're actually helping people with their money story before they trade or as they trade, because the blocker is going to keep them and sabotage the trading and everything else. Well, that is fascinating stuff. Yeah.
And that's a lot of what we did in our adult program. And what's even cooler is that is now what we are employing with the middle school and high school students to start their life with these sets of tools to be able to use when they go into adulthood.
That is so important. Okay, so it's really not just about how to push the buttons and read the charts and invest. It is about getting your mind open that you can accept the money that you want to make.
Yeah, we started this conversation by saying it's all mental.
Yeah, it is all mental. It's a mental game. Well, Mark, it's something that you would like to leave people with as a philosophy or a mindset before we part ways today.
Oh, that's an interesting question. Let me really think about it. So again, I kind of alluded to it, and it's important for you to understand that, in most instances in your life, there's nothing wrong with you. Just understand that, I know it's frustrating for you in a lot of times where you know that there are these things that are going on that you wish that you can change. But there are tools and things that you can do. You don't have to sit in the same energy that you always have in there is change. But if I had to go and take that to the next level, I can give my my team acronym that I use. So team stands for what are you doing with your time, your energy, your actions, and your money. So when I'm working with whether it's a student, whether it's an adult, whether I'm just talking to a friend and they're telling me that they're stuck in different areas of their life, I typically will just go through a genuine conversation with them to see where they're focusing those 4 areas of their life and then be able to guide them in the right direction in terms of where they want to go. A lot of times we have so many obligations outside of just what we genuinely want to achieve, whether it's work, whether it's kids, whether it's a partner, whether it's anything else, where your time is really being split amongst different things. And I'm not saying that you have to completely uproot your life, but you'd be surprised at how much you can get done if you just dedicated an hour a day for a year towards something that you genuinely want to do. You'd be way further along than saying, I want to quit my job and then just focus completely on that. So really pay attention to where you're focusing your time. And if you can dedicate an hour a day towards what you genuinely want to achieve, I think you'll make way more progress than you know. The other thing is always make sure you focus or pay attention to where your energy is going. Not just who is around you in your environment, because we know that there are people that suck your energy away. But there are also things like projects or things that you haven't really been focusing on, or you got that thing that's been sitting in the corner for the last 3 months that if you really paid attention to it, you can probably be done with it in 2 hours, but every time it's kind of zapping your energy away. Like find what those little things are and be able to just clear them out of the way to be able to allow you to be able to raise your vibration enough to be able to focus on the things that you really want to focus on. I got that from the Getting Things Done protocol, essentially, where he went and said, just grab everything and put it into your inbox. And then as best as you can, just focus, whether it's an hour a day or however much time you have, on just clearing those things that are in your inbox. It may take you a month, but once you do it, my gosh, do you feel better.
Do you mean my to-do list, like here?
Yes, exactly right. So we all have these things that pile up. And so just chip away at them a little bit every single day, because again, I know plenty of millionaires. I even know a couple of billionaires. And I'm telling you that the money isn't the thing that makes you happy. The true thing that makes you happy is that you feel like you're doing better than you were yesterday.
Fulfillment.
And that you feel healthy. Yeah.
I've actually studied that. The highest level of happiness is when we feel that we have accomplished something.
Absolutely.
And it might just be, knocking something off your to-do list. Well, Marcus, thank you so much for that. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please, subscribe. Please write a review, and I'll see you on the next show. You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jean Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jean Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact.